So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a study plan for your exams. So I'm just going to move it quickly right here so you can see me here. And one of the things I would say is like, you can name it, I named it here as a study plan template 2022. So this is kind of the thing I do if I have a course that I need to study for. This is the this is how I get started. So the first thing I would identify, which course do you have, right? So each of these gonna be courses that I'm gonna have. So I'm gonna call it the business course, right? The first one. The second one I would probably call it biology, right? And then so forth, right? So basically, each sheet going to be different courses that I'm going to be studying for. So I'm going to come to the business one here, and then I'm going to start listing how much weeks of material that I need to cover, right? So basically, I would say week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? Week 5, week 6, and I'm gonna just do week 6 for now. And if you want to essentially do it for more, for like week 12 weeks, you can definitely do that. The easiest way to do it, like basically drag, select all of these here this way, right? And then click on this little square here, and then drag it a little further down, and you can see 12 weeks of material will show up right away like that. So this is what I do to set up the weeks. And then the next thing I say is collect your study material. This is always something that I set a task to do for each of the weeks that I have, so that I know that once it is done, it is completed, right? And then the next one is I say, if you're taking a video course, or if you're taking lectures from your professors, I would say review, basically watch the lectures again or review the notes, right? So I would say, um, review um, lectures. That's one of the things I would do. And the next thing I would do is, once I started to do reviews, I started to create something called study packages. So I would start creating study packages, right? Actually, what I do is that, because creating study packages takes a while, um, I usually have like couple of sessions, or two different tasks or three different tasks just dedicated for that. So you will know exactly how to create these study packages and what needs to go in them more, and I will cover that. We have a whole section on that, so I will cover that in that more deeply. So what you do is, essentially, you can say study package creation 1, study package creation 2. Right, just I noticed that just creating these study packages is actually, helps you learn a lot, because you have to do it, you have to handwrite them. That's one of the main things, that when you handwrite, it's shown in research that you actually improve your learning if you were to just type it. So you create, it's basically, these study packages are a document that you create yourself with the best information, and the information that you didn't haven't come across, and you start listing these points out, all the points and all the notes that you think that will show up on the exam that you need to know. You start rewriting these things down in these study packages using white paper. So that's one of the things that I always do to start studying for my exams, right? So once I started to do that, once I start reviewing lectures, and once I'm reviewing the lectures, I'm starting to build out these study packages, right? What other things I do is basically do the readings, right? So once I do that, I usually have another, basically, while I'm doing the readings, I'm creating the study packages, updating the study package with the information that I learned from the reading. So I have another study package session. Usually, what I would do, you don't need to have an extra one here, but if you want to break it down a little bit more, and you feel like that's taking a long time to create one study package, you can break it down to more. But the key thing is, setting it this way up, so that way you can see where you're completing and how much you have completed so far, right? So that's one of the things I do, is that, um, as soon as I'm doing my lecture, reviewing my lectures, I work on these study packages. And as soon as I'm starting to read, I started to add the notes that I find into these study packages and update it in my own words and update it in my, you can even like rewrite what you have learned as long as it makes sense to you. The key thing is rewriting in your own hand on these things, right? So that's the key. So do your readings, make sure that read do your reading at least a couple of times. So I would say read your textbook or whatever at least 3 times to extract the best information from that, right? You're not gonna learn a lot by just reading things 1 or 2 times, right? So maybe one, maybe 2 times, but depending on how well you read, I had to read it like 3, 4, 5 times sometimes. So I really started my exam studying for exams much earlier, and I created these systems because I knew that I was not really good at studying, right? So I created these systems for me to get the studying done whenever I need it. So once I'd done that, I created what I call a revision of study packages. Packages, right? So basically, what I do is that by the time you're done all these things, right, you will have completed a study package, and you can essentially number them, label them with different things. You can draw diagrams, and then basically what you do is you take it and staple it, and then this becomes your main study material for your course. So if you feel like you're missing things, continually you can add it. Well, like one of the things that when I'm starting to revise my study package, I notice that I'm missing some information, or I don't know how something work, or I have only like part information of how it works, or don't have a good grasp of the material. I would go quickly online and update it, right? Like I'm very quick to use Google and YouTube or whatever I need to make sure that I know the material that I'm reading, and then I would go and make notes on my packages, whenever I can, and sometimes circle them saying important or whatever. So I just quickly go and update it when it's needed. So these are the essentially primary things I do, and then what I do after that, once I have a revision sessions, I would probably have another session depending on how well I know the material. So I would revise my like study packages over and over again. So I would even add another revision depending on how much time you have. But I would say it's ideal, or it's best that you keep time to study study packages over and over again, because they will really help you study for it much better. And then after that, what I do is I do a practice test, right? That's something I always do, practice questions or practice tests. I create my own if I don't, it's not there. But what I do is I usually go find it online. Other universities have that, online universities have similar practice exams and questions that I can take on. That's something I usually do. I usually just Google online for practice questions and see if I can find like similar topics that I'm covered in week one, and basically store those questions and answers in Google Drive or Word doc that I can take on to practice later on. And then what I do is after that, I review what I got wrong, and then I know exactly what I need to improve upon. So if I find anything valuable during those questions, I would add it to my study packages, right? So make sure that again, like you start with your lecture material first, because those are your professor's favorite material, and the person who's going to be writing your exam is your professor, right? Most cases, right? Even if they use a test pack or whatever, they're gonna select the questions that they like, right? So very likely those questions were initially taught on your lectures. So really prioritize understanding your lecture. So that's why I usually have spend a decent amount of time just going through lectures and over again, and lecture slides and lecture notes, and updating my study packages after that, right? So basically this will function as a matrix of things that you need to cover for your exam for that course, right? So as soon as you're completing them, you can say completed, right? That's something you can do, right? Like that. Or you can, what I usually do is I just put one, right? So like you can see, There are one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 tasks here. So 8 multiplied by 12 is how much? Probably like 1996, I think, right? So basically, I have 96 tasks that I need to complete for me to for me to start get ace this exam pretty much. That's the way I look at it. So that 96 tasks, then I will know how much work I need to do to cover that. And some weeks you might not even have a lot of material to cover. So those are freebies, and you can just enter one if there's not much material. But if you do have material, and if you do have a lot of decent amount of studying to do, this matrix or this plan will come in handy for you, right? So that's something I would recommend you do. And then what you can do, you can essentially grab, if you want, for the other courses. Once you created one, you can go to the biology one, and then you can just say copy and paste it here, and you can see the same kind of same options that you have available for you here. That's what I would do. So you would have all the options in the same one, and you can essentially create multiple courses this way, going that way. Or you can update the ones, like sometimes you might have to study labs, right? For biology and stuff like that. So it really depends on how you have courses set up. But I would say, as a starting point, use this kind of methodology. Collect your study material, review your lectures first, know them inside out. While you're reviewing it, rewrite the notes in your study package, and then go to your readings, update the study package with your readings, um, r- you know, and then revise your study package, make sure that it completeness, and see if everything makes sense. If there's any issues, go online and try to find the answer. Review it again if you can, right? So that way you really know your material, and then do practice problems to see if there's any holes in on your knowledge, right? So this is my process, and this is what I recommend that you do as well. All right.